Welcome to the Zesty Ginger Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This is the place for becoming zesty. And I am here, Megan, with Dr. Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
You get both of us today. Surprise.
Yay.
It's a rare occasion. Well, sometimes it happens. We have an amazing episode for you today. We're so excited that you are here. We're going to talk about the missing link to habits. Ooh, this is a good topic. This is a juicy topic. And just recently, we've had a ton of people sharing the podcast. So thank you. We really appreciate that. It means a lot to us. And if you haven't shared, feel free to do that now. Share with your friends, share with your coworkers, share with your community, anyone who could use this information. It really is like a tip in our tip jar when you share. So we really appreciate it. And because of all the amazing sharing, we have a lot of new listeners around here. So welcome. If you're new and you're just finding us, we're so happy to have you here. If you've been a longtime listener, we're also happy to have you back. So we care so much about habits. And why do we care so much about habits? Well, we actually care so deeply about habits that we have created a whole 2-day in-person event just for habits. So today is just going to be the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, we can't go into what we go into in 2 whole days, but we do have an event that we do in August. It's going to be in Dallas. It's going to be 2 amazing days of digging all the way into habits, and you'll get an understanding at the end of today what is missing with habits and why it will take us 2 days. So let's get started with a little bit about why personally we care so much about this topic. We have noticed a pattern that many people address. And when I say many people, we are including ourselves in the past. This was us, and this is why we are now experts in habits. It's funny how that happens, is we get to live it and learn it and become experts because we really did do it the tough way. What we realized is that we were good at the habits. Well, I'm doing air quotes for those of you who can't see me, but the idea of forcing habits just from a physical standpoint. So that is the idea of like, I can do anything someone tells me to do. I can do anything I force myself to do. And we were so good at forcing ourselves to do things that it looked great on paper. It got all A's, it got honor roll. I became a mechanical engineer because that is what was suggested that girls who are smart in math and their dad wanted to be an engineer do, right? I ran a marathon because that's what people who are fit do. And I completely burnt myself out and my adrenal health out, but burned out completely after having a child. And it was this pattern of forcing and really ignoring myself that seemed on paper to get me a long way. And underneath, there were a lot of challenges there. And Dr. Alex had very similar stories.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because I think the good girl phenomenon and the good boy phenomenon really takes to heart, the people that fall under this take to heart what we call the checklist quicksand. So that is to say, you go along and you become so good at following authoritarian suggestions and or what is perceived like, well, this is what successful people do. This is how to be a good mother. This is how a boss should be. This is how a wife should be. And so I fell prey to that just as much as anybody else. I mean, I went along as a piano performance major, trying to do as best I could. I had my eyes set on becoming a PhD, so it wasn't like I didn't want to do it to the best of my ability. But then I got hit with the chronic pain issue that I started having for endometriosis, and then having it go widespread all over my body. Then I said, well, that one's not working. So I went down the checklist of, okay, so then I'll become a medical doctor and I'll go to medical school and I'll do a really good job so I could get into a good residency. And I went to the University of Chicago and did all of that stuff and became an interventional pain doctor and married the nice man that was also a doctor and was kind and not abusive and responsible and not at all aligned in my life, but so good in general. And that checklist quicksand looked like so much forcing with between the schooling and I also ran marathons. Amazing how when you're beating yourself up and depriving yourself food, how common it is to end up just being like, well, I'll just start running and never stop. And how consistently you can get up at 5:15 every morning to go do that workout and to stick with the habit of preparing all the organic meals from scratch and cleaning all the dishes, all while being fully miserable, disconnected, and just scared pantsless during the whole thing. So yes, forcing habits can go great in some ways and be so incredibly detrimental in other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So over time, as we noticed that we were really good at the forcing, we started to realize that we were going to have to adapt and find some other habits that were better at leading to the things that we wanted. And so over time, we've really been pulling together, like, what are the habits of successful people and what are the habits that worked well for us and what are the ones that we were just doing because other people told us to do them. And the habits that actually made the biggest impact in our life usually ended up being the opposite of what we call productivity, right? The habits that were just there to like get you to do more things. And instead, they were centered around the habit of thought leadership. And I know for me, there was a lot of slowing down, resting, receiving, listening, like listening to intuition, feeling emotions, like changing beliefs, the habits that honestly you can't really even necessarily see someone doing. It's the ones that you don't get the check that, like Dr. Alex was talking about. You don't get kudos from other people for doing them. They don't look like you're doing anything. And really over time, though, those are the ones that led to success.
Absolutely. And I had all of my focus on looking a certain way, getting certain accolades, having certain evidence of here's why I'm successful. Can you all please love and respect and value me? And at the same time, you're so right. Those fundamental habits of how we truly build self-worth and confidence, I was sorely missing. Things like, I don't know how to talk to myself in my own head. The habit of narrating my life in a way that doesn't beat myself up, guilt and shame me consistently, downplay my accomplishments and my efforts. All of those things was ways that I did not know how to parent, as in thought leadership, how to parent my own inner child. I had no concept of what that actually looked like. And because the narration was so negative in my mind, the emotions that followed from those thoughts were foundationally and habitually negative. It kept me from seeing possibilities, from seeing my own gifts, how I could use the resources that I did have, opportunities for finding other resources that I could use and build on. These missing habits weren't just keeping me from sticking to the other habits, which is true. These other habits were actually undercutting any success that I could truly make. And that is to say, on the outside, it did look like I was making successful moves. And in some ways I was. But here's the thing, we all know that deep down, when you're in bed at night and how you feel about yourself and what goes on between your ears then and in your heart then is what we're all looking for, right? That empowerment and the joy and the peace. And when it's built on things that look good, but we're internally miserable, it still just doesn't work. It still just doesn't lead to that. And so not only did then the internal world change as we started learning those habits, like being kinder, being more authentic, showing up in a way that said, this is who I am. I'm willing to share. I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to be courageous and show my internal world to somebody else and risk the rejection, the abandonment, whatever that I'm fearful of, but to say, I'm going to do it anyways, because this is important for me. This is best for me. And this is what I'm going to do for myself because my intentions are good for me and this world, right? Coming from that place. And so as that all happened, that lays the foundation for all other habits to actually stick. Right. So everyone who is coming into habits in step 6 of the transformation process, everyone focuses on habits. If I can stick to these habits, then I'll get the results that I'm after. But what we're talking about here is if habits are step 6 of the transformation process out of 7, then what needs to happen? What other habits do you actually need as foundational things that completely change by the time you get to these external things, your ability to stick with them, direct them, and decide day to day, yes, I'm doing this. No, I'm not doing this. And consistently see yourself through to getting the money, the love, the connection, and the impact that you want to make in the world. And having applied that, that's why we're so passionate about bringing that more to the world, because in figuring it out, it wasn't because we were smarter or better or faster or anything like that. It was because we got more resources and we knew where we were at in our transformation journey, as in what step are we on and what steps are we missing. And so that's where our passion really lies, is we're here to share resources. We're here to give people the tools and the understandings to work with themselves more successfully, so that at the end of the day, what we all really care about is living the life that we're proud of and helping make the world a better place. Because isn't that why we're all here?
Amen.
Right.
Right. So the actual physical habit, like you're talking about, like the actual thing that you're doing may seem really simple, right? So I know a great example that pops into my mind is I love Byron Katie and the work of Byron Katie, and I've just adored her and looked up to her forever. And I was like, what if Byron Katie could be on the podcast? So the actual habit, the actual action, like the physical body, like going to ask, right? Like to put in a request, like, can Byron Katie be on our podcast? Like an email, literally a form. That's the very small percent of what was actually going on that may have been stopping me from doing that, right? That's the just step 6 of like, do the thing, send the thing. But I couldn't have gotten to that step without actually done the emotional processing that took the mental emotional processing of Am I a person? Am I worthy of asking her to be on our podcast? I was like, who am I to ask Byron Katie to be on our podcast? Right. And without the other steps leading up to it, this is why we're saying there is a missing link, is that we can force ourselves for only so long. So maybe we would send out one request, or maybe we'd even send out a bunch, but the energy of it is like, I don't actually deserve that. There, and it doesn't come back. Like they don't come back. It doesn't happen. And then we would stop there. We would make that mean I'm not good enough. And I should have never asked, and I should stop asking. Instead, the coolest thing that did happen was that she said yes. And it was like the easiest process ever. It was like an online form. I entered it and she said yes. And it just blew my mind of how easy it can actually be to get something you want. The same kind of thing that happened with me manifesting this amazing lake house in New Hampshire. If I hadn't slowed down and allowed myself to rest, I wouldn't have been there on vacation for many, many weeks in the summer, because the old story was you can't take time off. Like, that's not cool. That's not, people don't get to do that. You have to work hard. You have to be productive. Taking time off is not okay. And so first I had to get to that point of actually being okay with resting. And then while resting, we stumble upon this perfect, amazing property that fits every category, right? It was truly like something that just doesn't happen. These properties don't exist. So as we've watched ourselves work through more than just the physical habit, the habits themselves become easier. And then what we get and receive and what we're experiencing in life becomes so much better. So today what we want to do is actually walk you through where most people start is step 6 out of 7, like Alex said, in our process. And that is just with physical habits, just very specific habits, which we're going to call the physical body. This is just the like, I move this thing here, I do this thing. And some of the examples that we have for physical habits are things like, and these are things we love, so don't get us wrong, we're just saying there's more to it. So we use these, but one amazing one Alex shared with me and that I use is like moving apps on your phone. So if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so drawn to just keep going back to TikTok or whatever it is, moving that app into a different location. And Alex moved her Kindle into the location of that app, right? So these are like tasks and habits that you can do, such as moving the chai cups, the chai cup that's the trigger for my mind of like, I really want a chai latte, moving that out of our cupboard so I don't have the trigger. Or putting your workout gear in front of the door, making your bed, brushing your teeth, like small things. People will say, have a gratitude practice. Tell people in your life you love them. Bless your food. Send it good energy before you eat and drink. Like, we love these habits. And we have found that implementing even the most basic ones, when you're just addressing the physical body only, they do not stick. And they do not lead to change, to long-term transformation, and therefore they don't lead to the identity you're looking for, and therefore they don't lead to the results in the life you're looking for. So we're going to actually walk through, we picked a really super simple one, the one that we're hoping that you won't get in your head about, you'll be able to hear us, and we're going to talk about brushing teeth. So really, you could be thinking about this in context of your business or bigger things you want to be doing and habits you want to be implementing, but we think you'll be able to hear us best with brushing your teeth. Cool. Okay. So this one hits home for both of us, which is why we chose it. When I was at my absolute worst adrenal burnout, so those of you who've been around the podcast a long time, then you've definitely heard my postpartum story. And the last thing I wanted to do at this point at night was brush my teeth. And I barely would. I'm going to be honest. I know that's gross. People think that's very gross. I did not have the capacity at the time. That was just not something I was willing to do. I would lay in bed and then every night I'd go, oh gosh, I should have gotten up and done that. I'm not getting up. I was just so overwhelmed, so many anxious thoughts, so burnt out that I just wouldn't do it. And then, of course, to make matters worse, as I'm learning more about health and your gut flora and everything about health, I started to learn like, oh, the bacteria in your mouth, if you don't brush your teeth, then you're swallowing it and then you're reabsorbing it and it's harder for your body to deal with. And I'm like already depleted, right? And so then I'm like super low already physically. And then I'm feeling super guilty. I'm wondering if anyone's nodding along to this. So
I feel like they are. It's like the more you know, the more it's like, and then that's linked to heart disease. Oh my gosh.
yes. Yes. So we can use the whole process of scaring the crap out of ourselves into doing something. And I have, and it will work temporarily. So forcing yourself or doing it totally out of fear, right? Like Alex said, like, oh my God, I'll get heart disease if I don't start brushing my teeth. It will last, but for me, it was about a day. Like the forcing was about a day. Or then I could get into like habit hacking of, well, what if I just move it onto my pillow? So like I couldn't go to bed without it, that kind of thing. And trust me, I did all this stuff. Like, what if I just hang it in front of the doorway? So like you have to go buy it and all this fun stuff. And that's fine. And those are cool hacks. And what was really happening is this is more than just a physical toothbrush problem. Like it was much, much more than that. Luckily, I actually listened to my body and I decided to dig into it. So my physical body at this time was completely exhausted. You know, I just had a baby and that played a big role, but honestly, there was much more to that. It was not just that, because I've had a second baby now and this didn't happen at all. So my actions and my beliefs around it were that I have to do all of the things. That was really what was underneath it. I have to run the household. I have to go to the corporate job. I have to be the best mom. I have to send my daughter to Montessori school because that's what you do. And for those of you who've heard the postpartum story, then you know I wanted to actually break my arm in order to not go into work. And what do you think I had to believe that I thought I needed to hurt a part of me? So yeah, tough to listen to now, in order to not go to work. Like what part of me didn't think I could just ask for time off, right? Like, which really leads into the next pillar, which is the mental body. So this is another area, a big area that's not necessarily considered one of the missing links when we're talking about habits. So this is what are your actual thoughts and beliefs around this thing? So for me, following that string, it was belief being I'm not worthy of rest, or my worth was directly related to productivity. That was a big one. And then, you know, good moms, lots of stuff around good moms. Good moms do everything and don't ask for help. So sticking with those beliefs, then that would lead me to like, yeah, well, I could just like take some adrenal support, take some supplements, get in the sauna, right? I could just do some physical body things, but what would happen? Well, temporarily, I might feel a little bit better. But believe you me, it would be back. Like that was not the root of that. And it was like the life I wanted was just not matching up with the reality. And I was living out these beliefs day after day after day. And then, of course, what do you think is going to happen to somebody who has these beliefs all the time, and what they're doing, they don't believe they can keep up with it. They're not worthy. And then that was leading to feeling really depressed, having anxious thoughts, apathy, despair. So this is where we get into the emotional body. So all of those, the physical body leading into the thoughts, and the thoughts leading into the emotions. And then in this emotional state, what did I feel like doing? Nothing. I definitely didn't want to brush my teeth, right? So then it's a big old circular start right back over. Physical body doesn't want to do anything, guilting myself for not wanting to do anything. And it was around and around I go, getting more depressed. And right when you're depressed, and then I'm like hunched over, and the physiology is leading to more chemicals in the body that right are making me feel worse and worse. So it's right. I mean, Alex, this is like such a small example for toothbrushing. And I know you have your own story around it, but like this
Totally.
is so much deeper, right?
Yeah, it takes it. really highlights the fact that we can use any aspect of ourselves to be the end, to learn more about ourselves and to bring more self-awareness to our life, to garner more a joyful, easy, purposeful existence, right? And so, yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, and my story highlights it, the physical aspect really clearly as well, because in my story where it highlighted with the teeth brushing, I was going along on the medicine track, right? I was going along, and as I learned things, as I got my functional training, I worked for the Dutch Test Company as a consultant. All of these things I was learning more and more and applying it. And what happened was that physically, my body was improving. It was healing. I was getting better. My chronic pain was getting better. My hormones were recovering. The endometriosis symptoms were better. All those things were, in fact, happening. However, as I felt the improvements in my physical body, what then became so much more highlighted was all of the walls that I had created within myself. So it was like I could see that my health was improving, but it was behind one wall, and then there was me at work looked like a certain way, and I would fit myself into a certain mold so that I could look the way that I needed to look and behave the way people expected. And then in my relationship, I was really, I was not consciously trying to be different, but I acted very different. The way that I responded to relationship dynamics, my willingness to set boundaries, my willingness to communicate honestly about what I was feeling and what was going on internally, none of that, was really happening. So as a result, even with, because people always say, if my health gets better, then I'll be happy, right? But at the heart of it, what actually happened was that that is not a guarantee. You could be physically getting better and your soul, your heart, could be hurting way more than it ever has. And that's exactly what happened to me, is that I started looking around, liberated from constantly being in pain. I could look up for the first time and go, wow, I am not actually, there is not a single person that actually sees all of me, because I keep hiding it behind walls, you know? And even within myself, I couldn't really be honest. And so it took a while, but essentially all of these I began to see, and toothbrushing popped out as toothbrush. I brushed my teeth and flossed when I felt not depressed enough that I didn't actually think I won't necessarily live long enough for my teeth to matter. And that thought right there, that's how bad it was. And so I only really brushed my teeth when I was out, like flossed consistently when I was not in that place. But when I was, a lot of those behaviors would start to go away. Now, teeth brushing, I kind of could stick with, but things like flossing and doing some of those definitely went out the window. So for me, it represented a lot. It wasn't just like floss. It was it represented something important to my soul. So from that place, that's how it would play out with that behavior. But of course, I didn't feel great about that part, because I know you're supposed to do all that stuff. Yeah. And so for me, that's how, if we keep falling out, my thoughts were that I I don't know what I'm doing. My life isn't working well. I'm trying to keep it all together, and it's like the house of cards that just keeps trying to crumble, and got all these balls juggling in the air, and I can't actually keep up with all of it. And in the meantime, I'm dying on the inside, right? All of that just started to reflect in my thoughts, and of course in my emotions, and the behaviors followed those. And the energetic body then became the template. So what's interesting is that the energetic body begins to be the receiver of all of that, because the energetic body is the template for everything that we got. right? To create a physical body where the ears are on both sides of the head and the eyes are in a certain location, there has to be instructions. And so we have an energy template that does that. Well, all of what was happening within me created a lot of ripple effects in the energy body as well. And so my sense of self, my sense of purpose in life and why I'm here and all that, that's where it got shaken. And at the heart of it, what turned out happening is that's how I realized it was a bi-directional way. My improvements in what my physical body could do could only reach a certain level. It was great. I enjoyed that part, but it was capped by the fact that the template could never finish out the story of fully improving because my life was not in alignment with who I am. It did not, I was not living a life that felt good to me. I couldn't authentically be myself now, and I was part and responsible for that, but it wasn't all me. But at the same time, I had to take responsibility for all of it and decide what I wanted to do with it. And I did. And so over time, then in healing that, that's how Megan and I were able to see the full breadth of that story. The way that you not only start that, but you have to finish it. All four bodies have to cohesively come together, and the walls and within you have to come down, and all of you has to be unified together. From that place, and even as you're doing it, we don't have to be done. And in fact, we are not done until we are complete and it's time to leave here. But we can be in progress. But as we unify ourselves together, the habits that we choose then from that place, we stick with, and we stick with until we choose to change them. This is what creates foundational habits that you don't fall off the wagon. You don't have to worry about these habits. There are no threats of you falling off the bandwagon. There's just you deciding what's best for your life and what works for all of you and what you came here to do. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It feels so good because when we start to be on this path, what we create for ourselves is an unshakable foundation that nothing that someone else or that life can do to us that takes away that foundation. When our self-worth is created by our accomplishments and what we do and our money and who we're married to and all of that stuff, life can life in a way that threatens that. What we are talking about is creating your own foundation that cannot be shaken, so that as you live your life, you can meet yourself successfully wherever you're at and to move yourself to where you need to go. This is obviously just the tip of the iceberg because there's so much here, but we hope that you hear in that the importance and how this all works together in terms of where should our focus really be.
Mm-hmm. I know that, so we've gone all the way through. We started with the physical, the mental, the emotional, and now the energetic. And I know even before we got on to record this podcast, I said to Alex, I said, okay, talk me through this with the energetic body, because I'm going to be honest, that's the one that I'm still struggling the most to really understand. And so we host 7-day NLP hypnosis, quantum time technique trainings, and then we have a level 2. And in our level 2, Dr. Alex went so deep into explaining the energetic body that I'm starting to be able to pull together that when I am constantly, it's putting myself in environments that just don't work for me. It doesn't really matter how hard you're habiting. And so for those of you who are also like struggling a little bit with what does this even mean? Like, how do I apply this? Like, cool, physical, I can do stuff. Cool, mental, I can think about stuff. Cool, emotions, I can feel stuff. But what does this mean with the energetic body? For me, was understanding that when I was not able to brush my teeth, I was also going through pretty much an existential crisis of like, I didn't want to be an engineer anymore. I wanted to be in the holistic health space. I wanted to totally shift, but who am I now? I had made my whole, I'm a good girl who gets good grades in math and who's doing engineering because that's cool as a female. And I had made a whole identity around that of like making my parents proud and my family proud. And there was a lot more to this, like having a baby and then wanting to completely shift what I do. And I did, obviously. Cat's out of the bag. So that for me was like the instructions that we'll call it my higher self, or the energy of what was best for me to do and what I was doing was not matched up. And this will then translate, this energetic body will then translate into my physical body. And my physical body was hurting like so badly that it was like screaming, having panic attacks on the floor, kind of hurting, like don't want to go to work, break your arm, kind of hurting. So that's how much pushback you will get in the physical body when you are misaligned with who you are, what's your highest purpose, where you actually want to go. Now, the cool thing is, in our model of the world, we do believe that we go through these things for a reason. And we do believe that we went through the path the way that we did because we are meant to be helpers and healers and trainers. And so therefore, now when we come up against this, people shifting out of a corporate job, or people just having a child, or people going through chronic pain that Alex dealt with, like, we're like, we got you. Trauma, we got you, right? Like, we've been through this. We've
the whole thing.
Physically, right? The whole thing we physically
between the two of us. Yep.
Between the two of us, we have the list.
We got it.
So these are things, this is a broad topic. Again, that's why we're going to have a whole 2-day event in Dallas in August 23rd and 24th. We cannot wait for this. We have a huge room for community that we are going to bring everybody together. We're going to walk you through exercises. We're going to interact with each other. We're going to actually put the habit down on paper. We're going to actually go through all the bodies. Like, what are you missing? What are you not considering? And then we're putting ourselves in an environment to change it. That's why we do it somewhere else. That's why this one's not online. We want you to leave. If you have to fly, even better, because people will be like, but I don't live in Texas. Cool. We had 25 people fly here to Virginia
Neither
Beach.
does Megan.
Yeah, I don't live in Dallas either. I'm heading there. Yeah. So the coolest stuff can happen in our brains and in our rewriting our neural pathways and how fast we can transform when we get out of our environment. So every single part of this 2-day event and training is set up for you to optimize those pathways and change fast. Like Dr. Alex says, we're not into patience. We want to transform faster. So we're like, why would we not use all the things that we have, I'm going to use the word force, but we have lovingly learned over our struggle with different things to help you make habit change faster. So we would love to have you join us. This is valued at well over $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. We are offering this for just $197. That's the only investment for you because we want you to show up for you. And we know it's a big deal sometimes to leave kids or to leave your environment or to get on a plane. So we're making it the most possible way that you can do that. We're including a lunch voucher for the first 50 people that come. We really, really want you there. And we're making the barrier of entry incredibly small. So we hope you join us. Please feel free to reach out.
Totally. It's if you're a leader, coach, practitioner, and you are helping you get on the best path, the most aligned path for you, and helping other people out in the world continue that ripple effect and to help improve the love and the flow and the connection and the joy on this planet, then that is for you, because we are here to support anybody who is here to support other humans. So in whatever capacity that you do that, big or small, if you fit that description and you are motivated and ambitious to help the world, then please come on over, because we are here to resource you with whatever you need to do that, because we are so passionate about all of us doing our part to bring healing to this place.
Absolutely. We cannot wait to see you there. And we are going to end today's episode with a couple words from one of our fabulous attendees at the last 2-day habit event. So check out what she has to say.
I I just wanted to come on here and say how much I enjoyed my weekend with Megan and Alex of Zesty. I really came just to get more clarity and direction and more centered and intentional in my business. But what I really left with, even beyond that, is first, just the energy of Megan and Alex it was incredible. Like it was wonderful. And then beyond that, I left with so many incredible tools to use with my clients, with my kids, with myself. I love how they went through the different frameworks of the emotional body, the mental body, the energetic body, and the physical body. It was brilliant. Thank you so much. I can't wait to use everything I learned.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.